for Wednesday, May 12th. And with that, I will go ahead and take roll call. Member Espinosa.
Here.
Member Georgino.
Here.
Member Lynn.
Here.
Member Sneed.
Here.
And I am here as well. And I have received notification from Marie that there are no public comments on closed session action items or agenda items, I mean. And so with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session. And tonight's closed session, we will be discussing personnel matters under Government Code 54957 and labor/negotiations under Government Code 54957.6. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn, please?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
A motion from Member Lynn and a second from Member Espinosa, and I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Member Georgino?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Sneed?
Yes.
I am a yes, and Member Espinosa?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries 5-0. We're on our way to closed session. Thank you. See, now I got everybody's here. Mary, Mike, Melissa, and where's Donna? Donna?
Matt, give me a sec.
Okay, I'm looking for Donna, so that's okay. Go ahead.
Thank you.
And Auntie, do you see Donna in the waiting room?
No, I don't. Let me check the breakout room. Oh, she's still in there. Let me close it. Okay, she should be in there in 50 seconds.
Thank you.
There she is. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and call for a motion to reconvene to open session. And I see also that student board member Nicole Lee has joined us. Mary, you raised your hand for a motion?
Yes, I
Okay,
move we reconvene.
okay, and I see Dr. Mike Lind making a second. I'm going to go ahead and call the vote. Student board member Lee,
Yes.
member Lynn,
Yes.
member Sneed,
Yes,
I'm a yes, and member Espinosa,
Here. Yes.
member Georgino. You're muted, Donna, but if you can shake your head yes or.
Sorry.
Right.
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the first item on our reconvened agenda is to make an announcement that tonight's meeting is being digitally recorded, which should be pretty obvious to everybody. And with that, we are on to the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by member Sneed tonight. Mary?
everybody would stand. And together, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you, Mary. With that, we are on to item number 9, announcement of actions taken in closed session. We have no announcements to make. We took no action. And then on to item 10, which is special recognition and the presentation about the food services. And I'm not sure who's going to lead that. I was thinking Marisol was, but I don't see her on here.
It should be. Andy, do you see her maybe in the waiting room?
No, I do not see her yet.
Okay, then that's okay. We can go ahead and set that aside for now and come back to it later when she's able to join us. So I'm on to item number 11, public comment on agendized and non-agendized items. I have received none before the start of the meeting, and Marie's shaking her head, so there's still none. And with that, we are on to community updates, and I actually don't have any tonight. So we'll move right along to item number 13, district updates. And the first presenter there will be Dr. Mercedes Gomez to share with us business services and educational services updates. Mercedes?
Okay. So thank you. We've been very busy in business. Hopefully Marisol is able to join us in just a bit. I sent her a text, but I don't know if she's received it just yet. But she'll be sharing a little bit about, our Lunch Heroes that we just celebrated this last Friday. And Fiscal Services has been working very hard at making sure everyone's gotten paid for their first round of extra hourly work that has accompanied our a return to in-person instruction. And then next week we have the May revise from the governor, and we anticipate wrapping up the budget at the end of the month to bring forward to the board in June. In M&O, Anthony has been working very hard with the assistance of Casey, Pete, and Johnny at laying some of the groundwork for our shade structure project. And I'll provide a bit more detail on the overall status of the project a little later in the meeting. Switching gears to Ed Services, we are happy to share that we have wrapped up the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant, which Sandy will be presenting in just a bit. And we have also, completed the annual update to the, got to get my years right, to the 1920 LCAP and the 2021 Learning Continuity Plan. And then we hope to finalize the 21 through 24 LCAP, as well as the budget overview for parents after the May revise. And our schools are also busy completing the third diagnostic for the iReady assessment, which you'll recall is we're using that as our local assessment in lieu of the SBAC. And we're also, gearing up for summer school. But I would like to take a brief moment to just recognize and thank all of our teachers and nurses. So today, May 12th, is both the California Day of the Teacher as well as National School Nurses Day. So I just want to give a shout out. Obviously the tireless passion and dedication that our teachers demonstrate on a daily basis. And a thank you also to our school nurses for their role in helping to improve just the safety, the health, and the academic success of our students. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mercedes.
Oh, and I see Marisol is there under Charlie.
All right, we'll go back to item 10, special presentation for food services. Marisol, what do you have for us?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, good evening. Thank you everyone for joining tonight's presentation. My name is Marisol Cortez and I'm the Food Service Director. I'd like to thank the board, the superintendent, and the cabinet for the time and the opportunity to present tonight. I'd like to highlight the past year. The Food Service Department has been offering free lunches since March 16, 2020, the start of the pandemic. And we would not be able to continue operating and serving lunches to our students without the help of staff, volunteers, and district and administrative support. So back to spring 2020. School shut down on Friday, March 13th. Thanks to pre-planning and available staff and volunteers willing to work during the shutdown, we were able to offer grab-and-go meals at Temple City High School in the parking lot in the spring of 2020. Our menu was only cold options due to using inventory from all our kitchen sites. And we had home deliveries thanks to 2 volunteers, Wendy from Emperor and Raul from the Learning Center, that did home deliveries to parents that were not able to pick up meals. Our food service staff was responsible for prepping the meals each morning before lunch service. And thanks to our district coordinating volunteers to come in the serving period to hand out the lunches to our families. We had principals, teachers, office staff, district staff, counselors, maintenance staff, custodial staff, board members, and the city mayor come help us. The picture here in the presentation is from our staff preparing lunches at the high school area. And here are some more pictures from our spring 2020 for our volunteers at the high school parking lot. Some familiar faces. So fall 2020. Schools continue to be closed for fall 2020 due to the pandemic, but we were able to offer some changes to our drive-through service. The most important change that was able to offer was hot and cold meals. We were able to provide hot meals on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then cold meals on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our food service staff was assigned to 3 schools. We opened up Emperor, Longden, and continued at the high school parking lot for drive-through service. I also like to thank the district for providing support for traffic control with additional new needs. And also our custodial teams at each of these schools for helping set up our easy ups and tables for our service. Here's our picture from our drive-through setup at Longden. So here's some more highlights from fall 2020 from Emperor with our staff and the high school setup pictured also. Okay, currently spring 2021. We are continuing our services, but there have been some changes. We're still continuing to offer hot meals and cold meals, but we added weekend meals. On Fridays, we provide 2 additional cold meals to our families, which is the picture here shown, grilled cheese sandwiches or turkey sandwiches, depending on what's available, and a kit to go home. And we also have additional students on campus as of April 5th. We have ELP students and cohort students at Cloverleaf, Emperor, La Rosa, Longden, and Oak. So we're preparing the lunches and delivering them to these sites. And that is my presentation for tonight, a highlight of what it's been for food services for the last school year. Again, I'd like to thank the district, the staff, and all the volunteers for helping us continue to serve our students. And thank you for the opportunity to present tonight.
Thank you, Marisol. Are there any questions for Marisol? I just lost my, hold on. Can't get back to full screen. Okay, are there any questions for, and then you're gonna have to shout out if you do, because I can't see everybody right now. What's going
So
on?
this is Melissa. I just wanted to thank Marisol and all the food services and all the people who volunteered. Thanks for the presentation. I think the work that food services has done throughout this pandemic has truly helped our school community more than probably anybody knew. So thank you so much for all that food services has done, and it's so much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank your staff for coming in every day, getting the lunches out there. I know to some families it was
There we go.
it was a very important thing that they could count on the fact that their child was going to be able to get a meal every day. And for some kids, that might be the only meal. So I really appreciate all of your staff coming in and working to prepare all those lunches. I know it was a huge undertaking. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. I would definitely share that with our team.
I have a quick question with Raul. You mentioned from the Dr. Sears Learning Center. Is that Raul Azevedo?
Yes.
He's
yes.
a counselor, so he's volunteering to help out.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It's good to know. Okay, any other comments or questions from Marisol? Donna?
Well, I had the privilege of volunteering at all the sites, and they really do an excellent job at all 3 of the sites. And Marisol, I just want to remind you, if you ever need any volunteers, I'm always willing to help out.
Thank you, Donna. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, I think that's it. Thank you very much, Marisol. Nice job.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
With that, we're moving back to district updates, and we are now on to personnel services, student services, and technology. And this will be presented by Hannah Getty. Hannah?
All right, good evening. So in personnel, we did hold our job share meeting and we did have a few applicants. So we are looking forward to offering job share for our teachers next year, a few of them. And we are happy to announce that we have settled with all of our unions in the negotiations process. So all the steps are in motion. We are also excited to be entering into an agreement with our classified unions, as we already have done with our teachers for summer, to be able to offer many more summer opportunities so we can support the expanded learning for our students. And then in student services, I just really want to thank Miss Sylvia Mock. On top of everything else she does, she and Miss Mickey had, like I said, raided the warehouse one day at LACO. We have so many supplies to help our families in need, and she has been making appointments. They just come by the district office, she meets them outside, and she has been doing so much to help them with any materials that we have gathered. So I'm very grateful for that, and our families are as well. We are also undergoing a lovely, fun audit at this time of year. So we have our student services team pulling records, and this year is a little bit more difficult than normal because we do have to pull engagement records. So we have to show that students are not just present, but that they're engaged. And so fortunately with our LMS, there is that data, but it's still a matter of pulling it all for all the students. And then I also, again, want to recognize the efforts of ELP and all the staff at ELP for helping. This entire reopening would not have been possible without them. They are providing the morning and after school care for many of our families, and it's really helped a lot of our families with the in-person aspect of what we're doing. And then in technology, I can finally say that our touchscreen Chromebooks we were looking for this year for our first and second graders have finally come in. They were missing on a boat somewhere and they finally have them. So we're ready for next year. We're loaded and ready to go for next year and making lots of changes and advancements to our technology. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Hannah. So with that, we're now moving on to item 14, bargaining unit comments, and we'll start first with TCEA. And Kyla, Kyla, you were there a second ago. Here you are.
Yeah, hello, sorry, let me, 2 seconds and I can turn on my camera. I actually just wanted to say a thank you for, as we're kind of getting to the end of the school year, to just all the hard work, and I really appreciated the collaboration between everyone at the district office, school sites, and I look forward to continuing in that collaborative effort. Just a thank you for everyone. I feel like this was a incredibly interesting and challenging year, and yet there was still a lot of really positives that have come out of it, and I'm just really happy with how we've all been working together. So just a thanks as we're coming to the end of the year.
Great, thank you, Kyla. With that, we're moving on to CSEA units, and we'll start first with 105 and Robin Penn. Robin, there you are.
Hi, everybody. I completely agree with what Kyla said. I feel really good about coming through our negotiations and being done. It feels great. Now it's time to get ready for next time. But I do think everything is going really well on the sites, and I'm pretty proud of everybody who's working really hard, and we've been having fun also. I would need to throw that in there because we always talk about how hard we're working, but at Emperor we're having a blast. So you know, we're back to laughing together and pulling jokes on each other and having a great time. We had an incredible celebration for our principal the other day for her birthday, and it just feels good to be, you know, at our second home. So, and I had a meeting last night with my group, and everybody seems to be feeling pretty good about things. So that's it. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Robin. With that, we're on to CSEA 823 and Art Contreras. Art, I see you right in the middle of my screen. What do you have for?
Good evening, everybody. I just want to say thank you to the other side for working with us and coming to an agreement. This was one of my challenging negotiations I've been through since I've been doing this for as long as I have. But I like how the outcome came, and you know, I think we got a good district. They are really willing to work with us. It's not like it's yours, mine, yours. No, we work together. We came up with an agreement that's going to hopefully please everybody. I'm not going to say please everybody because, you know, some people are some people, but I'm pleased at the outcome. And now we just got to gear up for next time because we're past due. So, but again, thank you, and looking forward to doing it again.
Great, thank you, Art. We appreciate that very much. So with that, we are moving on to item 15, board member comments. And tonight we're going to go ahead and start with Donna Georgino. Donna, what do you have for us?
Just a couple things. 2 weeks ago, I participated in the joint meeting with the city of Temple City, and I think we've really developed a great working relationship with the city. As many of you may know, they assisted us with getting our teachers and staff vaccinated so they could return to work. And they've really been a great partner with us. And so I'm looking forward to this continuing and us having an even more beneficial relationship with them. Also, last week I participated in the Kiwanis Club meeting, even though I'm not in Kiwanis, but one of our alumni, Asia Gardner, was speaking. And just to refresh your memory, Asia is now working in the East Wing of the White House for the First Lady. And it was really great to hear her speak, as she is very inspiring and really awesome young lady. And she extended willingness to be able to talk with people from Temple City or any of our students. So hopefully we'll take her up on that offer. I was contacted by one of the cheerleaders. They're having a fundraiser and they're selling tumblers. So I bought one And then I got contacted by another one. And so I felt bad. So I thought I'd throw it out there. If anybody wants to help support cheer and buy a tumbler, they have one that's specific to Temple City High School, and then they have some other ones that like the NFL and hockey, and I don't remember what else. But anyways, if you're interested, you can contact me and I'll put you in touch with one of the other cheerleaders that still needs to sell some. Let's see. Ramrodders is doing a fundraiser with Savers. So if you want to do your spring cleaning and clean out your closet, especially clothing items, you can donate those on Saturday, June 5th from 9:30 to 10:30 at Savers. If you can't show up then, you can contact them and make arrangements to deliver it sometime during the week prior. Also, I want to congratulate the combined jazz ensembles. They put together a video performance that was very good. And I'm just so proud of them, what they were able to accomplish this year, despite not being able to be in the same room with each other. And finally, I want to congratulate the girls soccer team. They're right as we speak, I think. They are, or maybe they're finished by now. They were in the first round of CIF playoffs. So hopefully they won and they'll be playing another game. But either way, congratulations to them for having such a great season.
That's it, Donna? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I will go ahead and go next. And Donna covered pretty much most of my things. The things I wanted to speak about, she participated in the City District Ad Hoc Committee on April 29th. And they've been very productive and rewarding in terms of the discussions we've had, all positive. So I look forward to more of those. I've been kind of perusing the different parent squares for the different school sites and see there's lots of planning going on for open houses. I think La Rosa may have had theirs already, but I know we're going to get more information on specific dates and times for the other schools. I was kind of surprised to find out that May 1st was School Principals Day. I never knew there was a School Principals Day, but thank you to all of our school principals. And I'm sorry I missed that. I didn't find out till a few days ago. Like Don, I participated or attended the Kiwanis featured speaker, Asia Gardner. She did a great job. She graduated in 2015. She's a small package, but she's a tough gal, you know. I was very, very impressed with her. And just for everyone's awareness, the next Kiwanis meeting is on May 15th. And at that meeting, we'll be doing recognition of Students of the Month from each of the school sites. And that'll be our last such meeting for the current school year. If you want to get more information on that, you can go to the Temple City Kiwanis website, which is templecitykiwanis.com for more information. With regard to Mother's Day this past Sunday, I hope all the mothers out there were able to spend some time with your family and kids and husband or whatever, and enjoy the weekend and have a nice day. We also had a teacher appreciation last week, and I had a chance to go by several school sites, and I was really pleased to see all the banners that were up recognizing all of our teachers. And so I just wanted to say I thought that was very nicely done, and also thank you to our teachers for all that you do. And I know next week we'll be having the CSEA units recognition, classified employees recognition, and I'm going to wish them well for that too. Yes, I also discovered that today was National Nurses Day, and that was another one I'd never heard of before. But I wanted to give a shout out to all the nurses who have endured so well or been so helpful in terms of getting other people to endure through this whole pandemic, and it's very much appreciated. And that includes our LVNs and RN and whatnot. The voting for the Vans contest closed out last Friday, and I know we'll find out on the 17th as to whether or not our group made the top 5. And I really hope that they did and do well there. And like Donna mentioned, I want to thank Richard Lohman and Reginald Cordero for passing along a video of the 4 different blended jazz performance, and they played some Miles Davis songs. So thank you for that. And with that, we are going to move along to Mary Sneed. Mary, what do you have for us?
Thank you. I attended my fourth Masters in Governance class last week. I really appreciated the opportunity to take these classes to build my knowledge base as a board member. And I will be completing my last class next week, and I get to graduate next week. Didn't think I'd ever have that happen in my life again, but next week I'll be graduating from Masters in Governance. I also attended the Kiwanis meeting last week featuring Asia Garner. It was just really wonderful to hear, just in her voice, just the excitement of what she is being involved in, and her experiences in Washington, D.C. She's just a delightful young lady, and it's just a real testament to her talents that she has gone so far. I also want to thank the Kiwanis for sharing all their speakers. They've had to do their meetings a little differently this year, but they share all the speakers they've had in a variety of subjects, and also for continuing to celebrate our Students of the Month. I know they expanded it this year down to the primary grades, so they could recognize some of the students from La Rosa, and I really appreciate them doing that over the years. I want to thank our food service staff for the presentation and for all their hard work providing meals throughout the pandemic. Living near the high school, we go by there always, every day, and it's been really nice to see athletes on the field again. I know some are on the baseball field, but just there's soccer games going on. There's all kinds of activity, and it's really great to see our students back out there again. I had enjoyed the, the combined jazz ensemble Zoom presentation. Having been a band parent for more years than I want to admit to, it really brought back some great memories when they used to have the big band dances with the jazz ensembles in 601. So it really brought back some really good memories of that. But I enjoyed being a band parent more than I can say, but it was nice to see that they're still keeping the groups going, and they're still enjoying it. Reading, we get copies of the school updates, and I'm really impressed by the efforts by all the school sites to continue activities to really make the end of the year special for the kids. And they've done activities all year to keep the families involved. But it's nice to see that the year is ending with some of the activities that they're used to having. I want to thank the parents and PTAs for remembering our outstanding staffs. We're really fortunate to have such caring people working to ensure our students get the best. And that's from all of our employees. We have the most outstanding staff in the world, I think. And lastly, we're going to be hearing a report later about our graduation plans, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what the plans are, so we can. We really are going to be helping the kids have some memories, good memories at the end of the year. They've endured a lot since last March, especially our senior class. And they really, all the students have, and they really deserve the very best that we can give them, and the very best send off we can give all of our students. So thank you. That's all.
Great, thank you, Mary. And with that, we'll move on to Member Espinosa. Melissa, what do you have for us?
So good evening, everybody. I wanted to start off by wishing all the moms in our community a belated Happy Mother's Day. I hope you had a very nice day overall. I also want to, wish the teachers and celebrate the teachers for their staff appreciation. And the classified staff, I heard Matt say it's this coming week for classified. So I want to wish them the best and hope that they were celebrated at their site. I also wanted to share that I completed my board self-evaluation, which I'm looking forward to kind of reviewing as a board. I did attend I did watch a CSBA webinar called Expanded Learning Governance for Developing Effective Learning Recovery Plans. And it talked about, how we can leverage state funding to create learning recovery plans, including social emotional health, and how board members can use their position to support families and staff. And they talked about this equity framework that in these plans, and when making the plans, that would center around 5 pillars. One center relationships, address the whole child, strengthening staff and partnerships, making teaching and learning relevant and rigorous, and then empowering the school site level to reimagine and rebuild. So I was really, I loved the framework. I loved the idea and the thought around it. They had some different unified school districts talking about what they're doing. And it is something that you can view anytime if you go to the CSBA website. So I would encourage people to do that. I too attended the Kiwanis presentation where Asia Gardner presented. And I think kind of what struck me is, her journey was not only kind of an educational journey and growth, but I think what it showed me is, our character education and trying to look at the whole child. I think a lot of her opportunities and her path came simply from how engaging and how how engaging she is, and her personality, and people kind of being attracted to that and seeing what she has to offer. So, I always believe in the whole, developing the whole child, and it's not solely about what you learn in the classroom, but it's about what you learn about building relationships. So I hope we continue to, develop our students in that way too, because I think it's in life, it's just as important as your education. And then lastly, I wanted to, as I listened to Matt and Donna talk about, what they have, they represent the board with, the partnership with the city. And I want to commend both of them for the work they have done on this, because it's come a long way, and it's through the commitment to doing it and being there and engaging with the city. And I think it's wonderful. I mean, it takes a village, and I'm so glad that we've made that connection with the city and really developed that relationship. So thank you both for your leadership on that.
Thank you, Melissa. And with that, we're going to move on to Dr. Mike Lynn. Mike, what do you have for us tonight?
Thanks, Matt. Good evening, everyone. For all the moms out there, I hope you had a happy Mother's Day last Sunday. Also, thank you to Marisol Cortez, the food services staff, and our wonderful volunteers for the work that you have been doing to prepare and deliver meals, and mainly lessen the hardship experienced by our students during this pandemic. Also, this month is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and our board policies and resolutions strongly support the solidarity against hate and violence and celebrate the diversity and inclusion. Also, it's good to hear that the FDA has announced that children ages 12 through 15 can now get their Pfizer vaccine. Perhaps TCUSD, we can utilize our sites to provide on-site vaccination for our students and facilitate that process and help create herd immunity within our community. Finally, happy Classified School Employees Appreciation Week next week. And thank you. And this is all for me. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Mike. With that, we're going to move on to item 16, student board member comments. Nicole, what do you have for us tonight?
So I shared a little bit about how our graduation is actually going to be in person this year to our students. And I heard a lot of good feedback, and that a lot of them are excited because they didn't really expect to be able to have one. So I thought that was great news. And I can't wait to hear the graduation update for later. And additionally, we just recently posted our prom announcement. So if you guys are interested in that, go check out our Temple City ASB Instagram page. And if you click on the link tree, there's a link to a document with all the details and everything.
Great, thank you, Nicole. With that, we're moving on to item 17, the superintendent's comments. Dr. Kimberly Fricker. Kim, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you very much. First of all, happy belated Mother's Day to all of you. I know that it is such a joyous occasion, and I hope everybody had a very relaxing Sunday. Like Dr. Lynn mentioned, it is Asian Pacific American Islander Month and Heritage Month, and I just want to make sure that I just reiterate the past resolution that the board had made back in March 25th on the board stance against hate and against discrimination. And I think that that is very, it was in solidarity with the city, and I think that that was a very good, strong showing between that joint partnership between the district and our city. Speaking of the joint city meeting, I did attend that as well. And Mr. Brian Cook always does a great job in informing us, the district, as to what is going on with the city, the changes that are going on, so that we can adapt and change with it. I know that we talked a little bit about, and we will be talking more this year about just the change in time that the secondary schools are going to be exhibiting. We do have a year to plan on that before the actual implementation. So there will be a lot of joint meetings to come. So I want to thank Brian Cook for that. And then just informing us just a little bit about the recycling efforts that the city is doing with the extra waste receptacles for food waste, which I'm sure Marisol will incorporate into our plans as well. I do want to thank Marisol and her team, for the food services team, for diligently giving meals out to our families, and even then extending them on the weekends. I think that anything that we can do to help families and reach them and make sure that they're taken care of during this pandemic, we surely tried to do, and we could not have done that without Marisol and her team and her excellent leadership. So thank you very much for that. As Matt said, and some of you others have mentioned, last week it was Teachers Appreciation Week. So just a heartfelt thanks going out to every single teacher who went above and beyond this year, especially this year, more so than any other year. You've had to overcome and traverse and adapt and work in a new medium, largely unknown, and they've done it brilliantly. And I think that they've had a lot of great assistance and tools that we could provide to help to ease that burden a little bit. So I do want to thank all of the teachers. And then next week is going to be celebrating our classified staff, our CSEA 105 and 823 members. So to do that, I just want to give Hannah Getty a little thanks for orchestrating the coordination of a cookie delivery, which I got to do, and make sure that we passed out cookies to every single campus for all of our TCEA and CSEA members. So there's a little token of gratitude on behalf of the district administration and the board to all of our staff members. So Hannah was very diligent in making sure that I counted for them all, and we all got to deliver them. So just thank you for upcoming, the CSEA members, and all of the work that you've done throughout the pandemic. Surely the roles and responsibilities changed, but we have all risen to that occasion. So I want to thank you very much. And then lastly, I do want to thank just the union leadership and the negotiation teams for coming together and working through creating some understanding and developing our relationships deeper and further with one another. And there's nothing more important than that. I said it last year, I'll say it again this year. When all of the meetings end and we go back just to being colleagues, it is so nice that that relationship is not harmed in the process. And I really want to hand it to the union leadership, who you are very good advocates for all of our employees out there, and the way that you work with us is impeccable. And our union team, our union negotiation team, who was new, we had some people who came in midstream, and they did an incredible job on behalf of the entire district. So I just want to thank everybody who had a hand in that, and the relationships that you fostered, and more importantly, the outcome and the relationships that have deepened because of the process. And that will conclude my comments.
Great, thank you, Kim. With that, we're moving on to item number 18, which is written communications. Does anybody have any written communications they'd like to share? All right, I do not have any myself, so we'll move on to the discussion information portion of our agenda, starting first with administration and an update on graduation. I'm not sure if that's Hannah or Richard or both or who, but it is exciting news. Nicole.
So today we actually get to celebrate the class of 2021. And I know last year there was a lot of focus placed on the class of 2020 and the abrupt change to the end of the school year that they have experienced. And in reality, the class of 2021 actually experienced that abrupt change to the end of their year last year, and they had a drastic change to the entirety of their year this year. And as you know, many students look forward to their senior year and having all of those culminating activities, and the class of 2021 sorrowfully did not have those activities. So we are really happy to look forward to the celebrations at the end of the school year and make sure that they are as festive as they possibly can be. So with regard to the elementary celebrations, we did have a great deal of talk and time spent on the traditions of Temple City and what those traditions mean. And when we have abrupt changes to the normal protocols of the way we do things, nothing really can be perfect, but we can make it as perfect as we possibly can make it. We do have to abide by the Department of Public Health guidelines and make sure that we keep social distancing and we keep everybody safe. So for the Longden Elementary, Oak Avenue Intermediate, and Emperor Elementary and Cloverly Elementary programs, those programs have slightly shifted from what would be their traditional time and venue location. The Longden Elementary celebration is actually going to be Tuesday, June 8th, and it is going to be at 9 a.m. in the morning. And I'll kind of explain the time shift in a minute. Emperor Elementary is going to be on Wednesday, June 9th, and it's going to be at 9 a.m. in the morning. And then Cloverly Elementary will be on Thursday, and it will be at 9 a.m. in the morning. All of the celebrations are going to take place at the high school. The venue location was changed because of the constraints of how many spectators you can actually have in the facility, the outdoor facility. We didn't want to restrict families from being able to come and observe and see and participate in the celebrations. So by having it at a larger venue, we can actually host the entire family unit who wants to come and observe those youngsters celebrating. Oak Avenue Intermediate School, their celebration is going to be held on Tuesday, June 8th, and it will be held at 6 o'clock in the evening. We wanted to keep true to the evening time slot for the secondary schools, both Oak and the high school. But again, shifting it to the high school location would allow more of the families to come and participate in that celebration with the Oak Avenue students. So all of the celebrations for Longden, Oak, Emperor, and Cloverly will be held at the high school stadium. I know that our M&O crews are going to be setting up that location. They're going to make it look fabulous, but it will allow us to have patron seating on both sides of the stadium. It will allow us to have the maximum amount of patrons possible. So the Department of Public Health did have an ordinance of only 25% of the capacity of Sayer Stadium. That can increase now as we go into lower tiers, but we still have a limitation on capacity. So having it at the larger capacity will allow us to have as many people as possible come and view those ceremonies. And then on to the high school. So because the seniors have really given up so much of their high school career, they've sacrificed last year and they've sacrificed all of this year in terms of the activities, the fun-filled memories, the time on campus, the time with friends, the time in celebration, the Friday night games, the dances and the events, the plays, the performances, and yes, all of the graduating, culminating activities that they normally would have had, they've not had. So it is our pleasure to host the Temple City High School graduation at the Santa Anita Park Racetrack. We have secured, or the board will actually approve to secure the venue. And that celebration can be held and will be held on Thursday, June 10th at 7 p.m. Normally the high school graduation would be Friday, but Santa Anita races on Friday. So moving it to Thursday will allow us to have the venue. We can set up for the venue. We can make sure that it's everything that we want it to be. And then we can host the actual graduation ceremony at the Santa Anita racetrack. So we are super excited to send our seniors off in the grandest way possible, and actually host it at a venue that is fitting for this class. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, I have a question. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead. I go last.
Because of the location that we chose for the high school, is that location going to allow for families to, have more people that they can invite to the ceremony?
Yes, because of the capacity limitations that we were originally under, if we had it at the high school, we would be significantly limited. Probably only 2 or 1 patron to see each graduate, depending on the size and how we would structure the seating arrangement. Having it at the Santa Anita racetrack, their racetrack accommodates, I think, 8,000 people. And so even having a reduction to the 25% completely allows us to have pretty much unlimited tickets that the seniors would give. I think Richard Lohman said that they usually are given, 4 to 6 tickets. And so we would be able to still honor that amount for our senior class. So they can spread out. They have done it before. Other schools and districts have selected the Santa Anita racetrack to have their graduation. So by the time we host our graduation, we graduate a little bit later in the year than some other school districts do. So by the time we go, it's pretty well dialed in, and it'll be pretty routine as to how we get people in, out of the facility, keep everyone safe, and then keep that social distancing, but still allow the maximum amount of patrons to come and see the ceremony.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
I'm just really pleased that this is one indication we're returning back to normal. So thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Mike. And Donna, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to say I'm really happy that we're going to be able to celebrate the class of 2021 in a grand style. They very much deserve it. And thank you to our staff for putting in the extra effort to make sure we could do that for them.
Thanks, Donna. And Mary?
I'm so excited for our students. I'm excited for their families. I know, Melissa, I know you have a graduate this year, and I can just imagine how exciting this is for you and your daughter and your whole family. Being able to do the elementary ones at the high school and have Oaks at the high school, I think it's just going to even make it even more exciting for the kids and their families. And it's going to be, I think your staff really came up with a way to make some really great memories for the kids as they finish whatever level they're finishing, whether it's elementary or junior high or high school. I'm so excited. I'm getting chills just so how excited I am about this. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And I'll just echo those comments as well. I don't know who all from the administrative team and everybody else that was involved, the unsung heroes in organizing and orchestrating not only the graduation at Santa Anita Park, but also moving the promotion ceremonies at the high school is really well done. And thank you so much. It's nice to see us, as Mike said, kind of finally moving past the pandemic and heading on to the future. So
if I can tag on one comment, I do want to thank the M&O crew who is going to have to put all of this together and figure it all out. But I think the real credit goes to Ms. Hennigetti and Ms. Mercedes Gomez. They called and kept calling. And in the beginning, when the thought arose to have it elsewhere, I mean, when it was just proposed to have it elsewhere outside of the high school, everyone said no. Every single venue said no to us. And so I guess it was just the persistence and just keep calling and keep calling. And as those structured guidelines laxed a little bit, then sure enough, they started to open up venues, and Santa Anita was one of those venues who opened up more at the forefront. So their persistence and then putting it all together, figuring it all out and making sure that we didn't have to compromise on the capacity of the families to come and watch these celebrations. I think that was the biggest thing that drove their hard work and their effort. And then I can't say enough about, M&O and our custodial supervisors who, took charge and said, yes, we can do this. And yes, we'll figure it out. And, hopefully on the day that it comes, everything comes together, and I'm sure it will, and it will in grandstand style. So I do want to thank my team. They went above and beyond, and persistence won the day.
Just curiously, one question, Tim. Now, do the participants and audience members need to be screened for any of these events?
They will be screened coming into the venue, and we will go through the same process of like hiring our security and the same things that we normally do, just to have hands on deck to allow people to come in socially distanced, get into the stands, get the graduates into their spot, and make sure that everyone is screened upon entrance.
There's going to be a lot of hands on deck on those days.
Yes. Thank you guys.
Yes, again, thank you. Okay, we are now going to move on to item 20, which has to do with facility use agreement and the process and the presentation from Dr. Fuller. We'll be taking action on this later. Item 24 or 2, I can't remember what.
24.
Or,
I'm trying to open my screen and it won't.
Are you able to send it to me? I can share it for you if that's easier.
Huh. Normally it comes up, but it's just a white screen. No.
Your connection's been sort of bad, so I don't know if you're connecting all the way through, but.
do you have Excel open where you can email it to Hannah, or I can email mine?
Yep, hang on one second. Let me see if I can email it over to Hannah.
Should I move on to business services and the shade structure with Mercedes while you do that?
Yes, you can. Thanks, Matt.
Mercedes, are you ready?
Sure. I just wanted to share a little brief update. I don't have a formal presentation, but I wanted to just provide an update as to where we are with our shade structure project. So if we go back a little bit in time to June of 2020, the board, there was a presentation made to the board and for shade structures to be installed on all of our campuses. So that initial presentation indicated that the shade structures were already DSA approved. However, that only applied to the actual shades themselves. It did not necessarily apply to the entire scope of work surrounding the installation of those structures. And so anytime there's any type of construction on a public K-12 school, we do require DSA approval or approval through the division of the state architect. And so throughout the process to comply with the various structural accessibility, fire safety regulations that DSA has, they did identify some areas that needed to be brought up to code. So we are in the process of requesting bids to complete that work that has been identified by DSA, and we hope to bring that to the board in June. And then our goal is once the board votes on approving one of the bids, then our goal would be to begin that work identified by DSA so we can wrap up the full installation and close out this DSA project by September. So we're a little excited, but we just wanted to give an update because I think there was a little bit of confusion in terms of the timeline and the delays, and we wanted just to make sure that we were transparent with that.
Thank you, Mercedes. Are there any questions or comments for Mercedes? No? Okay. How are we doing, Kim? You okay, or should I keep on going?
I sent it to Hannah. I do believe she has it.
Yep.
Okay, then we'll go back to item 20.
Okay, so just tonight's conversation on facility use. I know this is a topic of conversation that we've had and presented to the board in a variety of different ways. So we just want to kind of recap the facility use, the process, the fee structure, and proposed fee structure, which is really what the board will need to either take action on tonight or have discussion deliberation on tonight. So next slide. Perfect. So the Civic Center Act is really the act that allows our facilities to be seen and viewed as civic centers and open to the public. We do have to have a process that is non-discriminatory for the public to have access to our school sites. There is Assembly Bill 1303, which does allow school districts, I'll talk about a little bit further in the presentation, but allows school districts to actually rent out their facility. Normally there's only a couple veins where school districts can actually recoup funds or receive funds. And the Civic Center Act or facility use rental is one of those. So if you can go to the next slide. Perfect. So the superintendent and the board actually has to establish the rules and regulations in board policy, which we do have with regard to the Civic Center Act and the facility use rental. You do have to outline, reasonable rules regarding the time, place, or the facilities that you indeed tend to share or want to put forth in the facility use process. And that all districts or all the groups that the districts work with, it just needs to be open and fair to everybody who could be or wanting to be willing to use our facilities. Assembly Bill 1303 really does state, as I said before, what districts can charge a fee for, and that would either be the direct cost and or like fair rental value. So those are the two different categories of cost that you can attribute to a rental. The direct costs are limited in scope, and they do pertain to usually your nonprofit organizations. Some of them are listed here, whereas your full rental values are for your public or commercial use, your agencies that are for-profit groups. Next slide. And then there's tiers of who would have what type of facility rental or access to your facility. Tier 1 is internal school affiliated groups, and this would be in a free category. These would be groups where you would not charge a facility rental fee, but you would allow different organizations that are affiliated with the school district to have access to the district. And this is solidified in our current TCUSD board policy. And our board policy does allow for groups to waive a charge or waive a fee for those groups that are directly involved in those student clubs or activities relating to the benefit of the school district students, the current school district students. This is an example of this would be like your booster clubs. They are currently in representative fashion of your clubs and organizations, athletic groups, and they fundraise on behalf of those athletic groups, and that money contributes right to those groups directly. Tier 2 and Tier 3 is really outlined in that Assembly Bill 1303, and that would be for your nonprofit groups and your profit groups. Some nonprofit groups would fall into Tier 3, the fair rental value group, where typically most of your nonprofit organizations do fall into the direct cost users. The direct cost users have a reduction of cost where the full rental value is the full fee that you can attribute to any one facility. So These are their general categories so that you can fairly and appropriately work with the community groups. It's important not to have a bias, and it's important not to make sure that we're discriminatory in any way. And that these tiered groups do help us do that. Our current board policy does already outline the free group and the 2 other groups. So if changes were to happen to those, we would have to change the board policy in accordance. TCUSD facility use process. So how does one become a facility user? You first fill out a facility use form. This form is currently being updated. It's gone to our JPA for inclusion of like limited liability language and hold harmless language. Also important citations of the Assembly Bill and the board policy for the users so that they know what application they're applying for, and then what that means to them as a user, and then what that means to us as a district. The second part of the process is really to calendar the event and making sure that we have a calendaring system where you can't have 2 people calendaring the same facility for the same time frame is a needed component. So making sure that there is no other prior commitments to use that facility is a great thing for a double check and balance. And then making sure that whomever is wanting to use the facility has a copy of their liability insurance coverage. And there is a requirement of a $1 million liability coverage for users. And that would be if something does happen while they are using our facility, that they are covered in addition to the district. And then finally, just those rules and regulations that the user would have to abide by while they're on the facility. And in this time of COVID, there were additional requirements put forth. We do anticipate that those requirements will dissipate and be limited as time goes on, especially as we go into next school year. So priority, it is important to establish just a priority of use so that we make sure that we are constantly going through the same process and we are fair and appropriate to everybody who would like to come and rent our facility or use our facilities. The first priority is for district activities. The second would be like student body activities that are not priorly scheduled. Other public entity activities, nonprofit organizations, community activities, and then finally service would go to, or the priority would go to for-profit organizations. We do want to make sure that we accommodate those organizations who do service our students in different capacities, not necessarily directly linked to a school district activity or school activity, but they surely do augment the students in our community and the students within our district. So we do want to make sure that they have a higher priority above, say, businesses who want to come in and just host an event. Currently, the indoor facility use rental is temporarily suspended just due to the Department of Public Health order. We do anticipate that that will be limited as we move into the latter parts of the summer and then into the school year. But as of right now, it is temporarily suspended. We do want to, the Civics Act also requires us to have annual inspections, and it does outline district liability for injury resulting from negligence due to the school district or the ownership and maintenance of the school property. So just because we rent out our facility, it doesn't mean that the district is completely free of liability. If we don't maintain the facility properly, we can be culpable and we can be then liable. So that is important for us to just keep that in mind. The other inspections that we have to have are playground, bleacher, elevators, and safety equipment inspections. Those happen every single year. And that is what we are required to do and our JPA requires us to do to make sure that we are properly maintaining those big pieces of equipment and those areas of campus. Internal school inspections and outdoors. So sometimes we have our site staff, our M&O staff do some inspections, and sometimes we have our JPA or our insurance provider do inspections for us. And then safety surveys is recommended, and then the reporting of things that are unsafe. So as our M&O team and our custodial team or our grounds team go around and they do those inspections, they do report into a system where work orders are issued to address some of those things that they find need to be maintained better or repaired or replaced in some cases. And then finally, we have chemical compliance and then the posting of the MSDS sheets for anything that we use in and around our campuses, so that whoever uses our campuses know the type of chemicals that we do use, and that is public information that is posted on our website. The calculation formulas that go into the direct costs and the fair rental costs, as I mentioned before, the direct costs are the shared costs of supplies, utilities, and services that are provided by the school district or the employees. And they also include the cost of maintenance, repair, restoration, refurbishment. Fair rental costs are direct costs that the school district, and plus they amortize the cost of the facility, the grounds, over the duration of the activity. So that does provide the increased fee for fair rental costs. The direct costs do not have the amortization. TCUSD facility cost and fee study, we really looked at a variety of different districts around us: San Marino, Arcadia, Duarte, Buena Park, San Gabriel, and El Monte were the school districts that we looked at to see what their facilities fees or costs were for both direct costs and fair rental value. And then we also looked back at the two prior iterations of the TCUSD fee structure, and one was in 2003 and the other one was in 2016. So we used that to formulate a proposal for you. And these proposed costs, if you see on this sheet here, in the first column, you have TCUSD 2003 adopted costs, and then you have the 2016 adopted costs. So we took the 2016 costs and then amortized them to be proportional. And I may have the wrong one up here. Oh, shoot.
The columns aren't quite in line.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, the wrong proposed direct costs are up here. But in a sense, we took we went back to the 2016 costs and just added some facilities that were not originally on that timeframe list. Some of the facilities were renewed, some of the facilities had been updated due to the modernization, and then we extrapolated a cost that would be slightly equivalent and in some cases just slightly elevated from the 2016 costs. There's ancillary costs that come with the facility use. So if you're using a facility, but you also need custodial support, a lifeguard in case of the pool, maintenance, processing applications, scoreboard, AV equipment, or technical assistance, those are additional costs that we can offer those individuals who would need assistance in those areas, and they would have a separate cost to the facility fee rental. And then the questions for the evening or discussion from the board is really about moving to a proposed fee schedule for TCUSD, adopting that and putting that in place. Fee rental has been waived until June 30th, so we do have some time before July 1 to make decisions.
Thank you, Kim. Are there any comments or questions for Kim? And keep in mind, we're going to be discussing this in more depth in item 24. Mary, I see you have a hand up.
Yeah, I know in the past when groups have used the facilities, whether it was a school activity or an outside group, excuse me, we were required to have a custodian or somebody from the school on duty during that whole time. Is that correct? I mean, that's still part of the policy though, isn't it?
That is still part of the policy. We have to have somebody who will essentially, especially if it's on the weekend, unlock the facility for you and then lock the facility back up.
Right.
And then if bathrooms are used, obviously clean the facility that is used, the bathrooms that are used, and or if it's an outdoor facility, make sure that the trash has been removed and the facility is left in good working order at the end of the time. So yes.
And I would think if with COVID requirements, that's going to be even more important if they're using a facility, the cleaning process would be even more important.
So during this COVID period, we did have different requirements for the amount of cleaning. And at one point in time, it was every hour on the hour. As we've gone into the lighter tiers, those restrictions, once the Department of Public Health guidelines have been updated, those will update as well. So we anticipate that going into July and beyond, we will not have the same restrictions that we do have now.
Donna?
Well, I'll just say for now, in my professional career, one of my job responsibility was doing facility maintenance for one of the cities that's included in the survey. And I actually did a lot of the school facilities because the city leased the school facilities. And I will say this is a very imperfect and difficult process. And I'm not sure that when we get to the item, I'm going to be ready to approve something tonight because it is very complicated and very, like I said, imperfect process. And there's a lot of variables and a lot of different groups and considerations. So I thank you for all the work you've done on this. It was, the survey was real helpful. And I'll wait till we get to the agenda item and then we can discuss it more.
Any other comments or questions? Melissa?
Just a couple things, and I'm sure we'll be discussing it more later, but the figures that we have, are those per day of use? So let's just say there was a number on the proposed for, let's say like stadium, you know, and it says like 144 or whatever it might be. Is that per time that they, every time they use it? Is that a flat monthly rate? I'm not clear on the numbers.
Okay, we can put in like their hourly rates, but we can put those in to a different spreadsheet just for the proposal if you would like, if we want to bring it back next time.
Okay, yeah, and then I'll just comment here because I think I get the tiers and I get how the regulatory pieces came into play and how they defined the tiers. I get that. I think where I struggle is just with the fact that some of the community organizations that use our facilities, they service, you know, sometimes 50, 60, 70% of our students. You know, a lot of the kids that are participating in these programs are TCUSD students, majority in some cases. So I don't know that those tiers take that into consideration. It just kind of puts them in this second tier, and I don't know. I just feel like that needs to be taken into consideration when we talk about, you know, what we charge community groups that do have members that are at least, you know, a certain percentage of the kids involved are our TCUSD students. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
Any other comments or questions? I'll like to make one. Dr. Fricker did send us some information out this morning, and I was real pleased to see this one sentence in particular, and it's that we want to keep the costs relatively low, lower than our comparison districts, to welcome users. And I don't know if people had a chance to take a look at what is being proposed, but I think we'll get to it in item 24. So, but I think their costs are pretty reasonable in most cases. So I'll leave it at that because I know we're going to talk about it some more. Any other comments or questions at this time? Okay, thank you very much, Kim. Mm-hmm. And now we will be moving on to Ed Services and item 22, which is about the Oak Avenue Intermediate School new courses. I see Susan Hemans is here, and Becky French, and I'm not sure who all is going to do the presentation, but please.
I'll introduce to you Miss Hemans. She's going to present to you some ideas and hopes for next year at Oak.
You're muted.
Susan.
Do I need to unmute? I guess I should. Okay, so yeah, just the two teachers that are here tonight with me, I'll do the presentation, but I will definitely have them available to answer questions. We have Hannah Song, who is a new teacher, temporary teacher this year, who has been teaching social studies, but also has a Mandarin credential. And then we have Becky French, who I think all of you know has been around for quite a while, and she is our 8th grade English teacher, but also has a major in journalism. So to kind of give a little background of who helped me kind of come up with these courses. So if I can share my screen now, you guys have me all even more nervous than I was. And let's see, there we go.
We're not
All right, let's see if we got this. Okay, I think we can see me, so we're gonna go with that. So again, there's 3 new electives that we want to present to you guys tonight as possible new electives for this coming school year. And the 3 that we have are Intro to Chinese Culture, Chinese 1 or Mandarin, and journalism. And the Intro to Chinese Culture is really just kind of an introductory course to get our kids excited about looking at maybe choosing Chinese 1 Mandarin as their world language that they want. Currently, Oak does not offer a world language, and we wanted to bring that in. So this introductory course could be open to 7th or 8th graders. The idea is getting them interested in learning Mandarin Chinese and the Chinese culture, and it would be a semester class. And we'll go into a little more detail in just a couple minutes on all of these. The Chinese 1 is a year-long, or rather 2 semesters, 8th grade only. It would be patterned after the Temple City High School's Chinese 1 class, in the hopes that if a student is successful, they could move on to Chinese 2 when they entered the high school. And then journalism would be an introductory course in journalism for 7th or 8th graders. And this would be a semester class as well. Okay, so for the Chinese culture class, we wanted to be able to provide students with an introduction and experience Chinese Mandarin language and culture. Though we know that many of our kids come from maybe a Mandarin background, many of them don't, yet they find this, interesting and something they might want to learn more about. So whether it's culture, food, traditional practices, and more, it would be focused on developing a greater interest. And they would then be able to kind of dive into the Chinese culture through the learning some of the basics of the Mandarin language, the Chinese calligraphy, traditional paper cutting, tea ceremonies, and so on. So there's a lot for them to just learn and engage, and to find out more about the Chinese culture, maybe excite them about trying to take an actual full-on class in Mandarin. Some sample units could include, like the language basics, like starting off on any new language. They could learn a little bit about the history of the Chinese dynasties, possibly the Chinese cities, the different cultures within the provinces, the food culture, their major holidays, Chinese art, Beijing opera. And so this is still somewhat in the planning stages. But again, if we get it approved, we can get a little more deep into exactly what this will look like. Okay. The next would be the Chinese 1 or the level 1 course in Chinese Mandarin. This, like I said before, would mirror the high school level 1 class, utilizing the same textbook or something similar to teach students to read, write, speak Mandarin at a level equivalent to the high school Mandarin class. They would go into the basics of the Mandarin language. So greetings, introductions, numbers, colors, days of the week, schools, animals, descriptions, and so on. And the idea, again, is give them the opportunity to practice the vocabulary and language skills so that they could progress on to Chinese 2, 3, AP Chinese, and so on, so that they get the opportunity to start their learning in a world language. And again, we're middle school, like anywhere else, so you still want to make it some fun. So they would still have the opportunity to learn more about the culture, traditions. It wouldn't be required that they took the intro class, but it would be, you know, obviously something that might help them and get them a little more engaged in this, but not necessarily a requirement. Okay, and then finally, journalism. Again, an introductory class because we are middle school. And here the students will be responsible for all the content for creating a digital Oak Avenue newspaper. Apparently Oak has had one in the past, or a printed newspaper, but we do not currently have an Oak Avenue newspaper. And this hands-on experience would give students the opportunity to develop skills in news gathering, interviewing, writing, editing, graphic design, photography, layout, all things that would be able to advance them and get more in depth when they got to the high school. And like any good newspaper reporter or photographer, they would be required to attend some school and community events outside of the regular class hours. And again, they would be supervised, and this would, you know, we would make sure, but they've got to get out there and into our after school sports or other events that we might have. So we would rely on them to help us gather this information. Learning objectives, they would be learning, you know, writing styles, article formatting, photography and captioning, art, design, AP style requirements, interviewing techniques, etiquette. All of this is stuff that we see in the news all the time, and we see people who are really good at it and people who may not be. And we want to teach them while we have the opportunity while they're still in middle school. And really important in this too is Ms. French has already, you know, kind of talked with the managing editor of the Rampage, and they're excited about it. And so we would be able to articulate with them so that our students are prepared. And if they're so interested and have learned the necessary skills, they can possibly join the Rampage staff even as a freshman. And then the Rampage staff, they got super excited, and Ms. French could even elaborate a little bit, but they were all excited because they're like, oh yes, we can teach them this and that. And we're like, okay, maybe a club. So the idea would be they could even get interested more into a club after school that might dive a little bit deeper than what we might do in the regular classroom, to give them extra practice and mentoring, so that they can kind of conquer all these new items that they would be learning throughout the class. And that concludes our quick presentation here. But like I said, we're here. We want to be able to answer any questions that you guys might have about any of them. I can go back, or I can just stop screen sharing if that's desired, and we can try and answer some of your questions.
Great, thank you, Susan. As soon as we get back to full screen.
I'm going there.
Are there any comments or questions for Susan?
It's Melissa. I do have a comment and a question. First off, thank you for the presentation. I think these are really great topics for middle school students. I'm glad to see language being introduced at that level, hoping to see in the future maybe more or different languages. But I wanted to know, did you have to kind of do any kind of surveying to see what the interest was? Because I think I've seen in the past, before my kids went to Oak, they used to have like Spanish or something. And I guess there wasn't a lot of interest and the class was going unfilled. And so I just wanted to know, was there any surveying done to see that there was interest in these subjects?
We did. And so it's been done, well, this is only my second year, but we did it last year and we did it again this year when we send out to our incoming 6th graders and 7th graders. We list the courses that we have, and then we also list here's some other ideas that you might be interested in. And then we say, you know, can you add some of your other thoughts? So both Mandarin and Spanish have been brought up as possible classes. We had more interest in Mandarin, and we hopefully had an opportunity with someone on staff, though Ms. Song is, you know, her first year there, but we were hoping that would give us an opportunity to kind of get it started and to kind of start to build. In other words, I would like to see that we offer more than just Mandarin and that we offer Spanish as well. And I think if we can see this one be successful, then that's something we can continue to look at trying to add additional.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you. And I think the whole topic of journalism is super important. You know, it develops the kids' writing skills and just how they analyze stories and stuff. So I think those are just great topics, and thank you for the work on that.
I think I saw Donna, your hand going up a little while ago.
Actually, I was going to ask the same thing Melissa did.
Oh.
So thank you.
Okay, never mind. Mary, please.
I was wondering with the Mandarin class, how I know you probably have a lot of students who are coming to Oak who are native Mandarin speakers. How would they affect the class, or how would the class affect them? I know at the high school when we got the presentation on the new Spanish curriculum, that they actually have a separate track for the native speakers. Is that part of this program for your native Mandarin speakers? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, not initially. We would keep them in one class, and Song and I have talked about what that would look like. Hannah, you want to give them an idea of how you've seen it work, where the native speakers actually have really been very helpful at this level with our non-native speakers? Yeah. Just, yeah, go ahead and unmute if you can give us any comments.
Yeah, definitely. I think that in the beginning, we can see how it would work with both groups mixed together, because I've definitely seen the benefits of that, where those that are a little more advanced, they're able to kind of give those that are a little lower level that more of that experience, because they know how to speak it better. They know the pronunciation, that they can bring that into the classroom. I think it's kind of like the idea of when you put an English learner into an English classroom, as they're exposed to the language more, then they're able to then acquire the language more as well. So I think that that's something that I would love to see in the classroom. I don't think it's bad for those higher level kids to be mixed in with the lower level, but that's something that I would love to see and hope to encourage the students to do as well.
Yeah, I'm very excited by all these classes. I think the introduction would it would further an understanding, which we really need to keep growing their understanding of different cultures. And I like to see that. I appreciate you having that as the first part of your 7th grade curriculum, of understanding the culture and help them appreciate it more too. And I love your idea of the native speakers helping the non-native speakers gather that knowledge. So kudos to all of you for developing this. This is very exciting for our middle school students to have classes like this available. And I think you put a lot of thought into how you're going to proceed, excuse me. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mary. Any other comments or questions? I assume this is going to be, I want to compliment you also on the classes that are being offered in the staff report. It's very helpful. I would gather that this will be brought back for action at our next meeting, or not too distant thereafter.
Yes, that is the plan.
Okay. Well, with that, I want to thank you again, and we'll move on to our next item.
All right. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you listening to us tonight.
Very welcome. Okay, with that, we are going to move on to the administrative portion of our action agenda, item 23, which calls for a motion to receive board policies for first reading. And there are 5 different policies listed: charter school renewal, transfer of funds, federal grant funds, employee safety, and chronic absence and truancy. May I have a motion to receive these policies for first reading? I see Donna making a motion, and a second from, Ty, a second. Member Sneed, are there comments or questions? As always, we appreciate the summary, which talks about what these really mean in terms of our situation. Are there comments or questions for anybody? No, then I will go ahead and call for the vote to receive for first reading. First of all, Student Board Member Lee.
Yes.
Member Sneed.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Member Espinosa,
Yes.
Member Georgino,
Yes.
and Member Lynn.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. With that, we are on to item 24, which calls for a motion to approve the facility usage fee agreement and process. And I will, before we get into any further discussion, ask for a motion in a second, please. Really, I'll go ahead and move that we approve. Is there a second? I see Dr. Lin has raised his hand a second. So now let's get into some further discussion. Obviously, some people have questions. Why don't you go ahead and talk about it? Donna?
Okay, a few things. One of the reasons I'm not ready to approve it tonight is because I think the tiers need some massaging. For example, I would like to support our local Little League. However, you know, I don't think it's appropriate for us to support a Little League from outside the city or to support a travel team. And as the tiers are now, it's, I think they're all grouped together. And so I'd like to see the tiers massaged a little bit so that they're more pointed towards the groups that we want to support. And I think the fees are fine. I don't have a problem with the fees. I just have a problem with who has to pay the fees.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I talked about the fact that we have some groups that have a lot of TCUSD kids in them. We have, you know, groups that are from the city, from Temple City. And I think that's the one thing that's missing. I don't know that I have a problem with the fees. It's hard to tell too. I think I would like to see, I see fees, but I don't know if they're by the hour, by the day. And, you know, I'd like a little bit of clarity on how that the fees are presented so I can understand it a little bit better. But ultimately, the bigger thing for me is just not being able to recognize and differentiate in those tiers the people that actually have a lot of our students in them and the people that are from our city.
Michael, Mary, any questions from Donna?
Okay, the question I have is, would these fees apply to the city of Temple City?
So the city of Temple City would be outside of the district. So they would either be the direct cost user or the full user. And in the sense of what the categories are and the definitions of the categories of the tiers, they would be in the direct cost user category.
Which is the lower of the two.
Lower cost category, yes.
And these are
So
hourly rates too.
Yeah, the policy 1400. So it says the district may enter into agreements with other, this is it's relations between other governmental agencies and the schools. And it said the district may enter into agreements with other agencies which involve the exchange of funds or reciprocal services. Such agreements shall be approved by the board and executed in writing. Mm-hmm. So how does that fit into
that would
facility use?
Yeah, that would be like your, so we don't have a joint use agreement with the city. And so with an entity like the city, the policy does permit that there could be an exchange of use. So they would use our facilities and we use, you know, part of their facilities. So you can have a different structure for such an entity like the city, but that would come in its own agreement. That wouldn't necessarily alter this agreement in terms of what we would normally charge in those categories. The tricky situation with having the tiers and identifying what you can charge for, which is Assembly Bill 1303 is saying that districts can charge direct cost or full rates. So it does give us permission to charge. When that is interpreted by CSBA and it comes into our board policy, CSBA hasn't interpreted for the district policies that there is a free category for those organizations that are directly relating to the school clubs or activities. So that's how they're currently structured. And I understand the massaging of some of those in terms of some of the groups that work with Temple City and definitely benefit our students. We as a district would have no way of verifying the percentage of students that are in those groups or not. Yes, they probably do have a significant number of students who come from our school districts, but we don't have a mechanism necessarily to verify that. And we have to be fair and appropriate to how we're granting access and making sure that we're not doing that in any sort of arbitrary or just, discerning way. So we would have to be very, very, very clear as to who would go into those categories if they wouldn't traditionally fit into the 3 categories and you're wanting to massage them. You would have to be very clear so that you hold the same standard for anybody who is applying to use our facility with regard to the exceptions that are made in terms of the tier massaging as you.
No,
So
Kim,
to clarify, we had a joint use agreement with the city that would supersede this
It would
facility
ride
use.
alongside, yes. It would be your agreement with the city and both you and the city would have to adopt it and it would have to be a shared interest, meaning we share in their interest and they share in our interest. It's a mutual benefiting of both agencies. There was one in the past and there hasn't been for, several years, which predated me, but yeah, that would ride alongside the facility use. It would be an agreement of its own.
Right, standalone. That's the way it was. Yeah. Mike, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I just want a comment first and then a possible question. So, Kim, you did a wonderful presentation about comparing us with the 6 different school districts, surrounding school districts. That's a lot of work, a lot of data you gathered. So kudos on that. The question is, with PTA and let's say the schools foundation, I mean, they're separate entities. I don't know if, do we charge them a fee as well?
So one is yes and one is no. So yes, PTAs are separate organizations. And the foundation is a separate entity, a separate organization. So yes, you would charge them a fee. If a PTA is meeting with the parents on your campus, you typically, that there's no rental for that. It's usually happening with the families in conjunction with a principal's council or, some other activity. They're kind of conjoined. The foundation is not necessarily legally, it's a separate entity from us. So I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way in defining what is what. It would just be if it's a completely external organization or if it does have an affiliation with a school sponsored activity. That's the defining matter. If it's not in conjunction with a school sponsored activity, then it would result in the direct user fee.
Right. For example, the foundation will have a summer school program.
Right.
And we will lease, classrooms to them, and then that money then also helps.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Well, along those lines, now it kind of just raised a question for me because you mentioned PTA. So if PTA is running a fundraiser in conjunction with, they're running a fundraiser and the students are participating. The fundraiser is a jogathon or something on campus. Are we charging for that?
So in that case, the PTA does have a national board and they are a separate organization. If they're running just a separate fundraiser, then, they would be. If they're having a joint meeting with the principal, because it's the principal's meeting, then it would not be.
Can I interject here? Because I'm looking at Assembly Bill 1303, and it identifies specific organizations that would be eligible for free. And it says, I'll just tell you who they are: Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Campfire USA, the YMCA, Parent Teacher Association, School Community Advisory Council, like school councils, and then recreational youth sports leagues, and who charge a nominal fee. So they would all be eligible for, well, free or reduced. I will tell you that, anyway, those are the ones who would be free, basically, perhaps some nominal cost. Donna?
Well, for example, in the list you just read, we don't have a YMCA or a YWCA that serves our community. So I don't think that's appropriate for us to support financially an activity that they do if they want to, have meetings. That's why I think the list needs to be massaged. And the way I understand it, we have the option to do that if we want.
That is correct.
It is correct. You just have to be very clear and consistent so that we can be very fair and equitable in servicing whichever community group fills out a form and wants to use our facility.
And
I wouldn't think we would deny a YMCA from using our facility, but we wouldn't have them use it for free because they don't serve our community.
Yeah, and so maybe to clarify things, and I worked with Kim a little bit on this, and so they, according to the Assembly Bill, they would be eligible. That doesn't mean that's what we would charge, and what we would have to do is, in our board policy, is identify specifically which organizations fit in which of the categories, and that would be an additional aspect of this.
Right. And so currently, with regard to the board policy from the presentation, the current language in the board policy is it has to be directly connected to like a club or activity that is connected to the school. So that's what's currently in the board policy, and that was from the CSBA language, and that was adopted, in years past. You can put in local language into a board policy, but I've just said that that's currently what's there. Like that's currently what's classified as the free category in your board policy.
Because I don't think PTA should be charged for any of the activities that they, even if it is a fundraiser, I mean, it benefits our students. Same thing with all of our boosters that support our groups. They should not be charged anything because they're supporting 100% our students. So I think it goes back to tying it back to the students that we service, the students in our community.
There is a history, of paying for the custodians though. Just covering the cost of the custodians.
The way I've read this, and maybe I read it wrong, is that PTA would not be charged.
That's what I thought, but when I heard that example, it just confused me a little bit.
Well, a PTA group could do things like outside of the scope of, say, a school activity or an organized.
I mean, I guess
with us.
I think if there's additional cost to the school district that would be incurred that otherwise wouldn't be incurred, then it's reasonable to pass those costs on. But if it's conducted during the school site or school day and there's already custodians there, then there shouldn't be an incremental cost.
Right. If it's a Saturday fundraiser, and the custodian has to come in to unlock the restrooms, things like that.
We can, to give you an example, Kiwanis, we used to have an annual fundraiser at Oak Avenue during the summer for a barbecue, and we paid for custodians and for food service support. That was
that makes sense to me. I mean, that part does make sense to me if it's a day where they're not operating normal business.
Right.
Well, okay, I'll give you another example. If you remember last year, Ramrodders wanted to do I believe it was a Savers Drive where people come and drop off stuff to be donated, and then they take it and get cash for it. And we were charging them. It was on a Saturday. They were in the parking lot and they were being charged for that. And
I remember
that's
that.
the kind of, we should be doing. I think, I mean, they weren't going to make any money if they had to pay for a custodian, and they really don't need a custodian. They didn't need one. And that's why I think there needs to be some discretion, some modifying of who gets to use what when. Because I think we're just shooting ourselves in the foot when we, charge some of these groups. We're discouraging them from raising money to help our students.
And the groups like Ramrodders, per your board policy, they would be free.
Even if they were doing a fundraiser?
Well, if
On
they
a
were doing that
Saturday?
weekend and they needed like a room or a facility, if they did need someone to come in and open up a facility and close a facility or clean something, then perhaps. But if it was the parking lot where you don't need an access or you don't have a requirement for cleaning, then no.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but we were charging them. And so
I
that's
think-
why. Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, Don.
Go ahead, Mike.
Right. Well, I think for these fundraisers, right, it's important that the organizations also know how much it's costing us in terms of a time and a half for custodians during off hours. Because sometimes fundraisers don't raise that much and actually costs us more as a district. And so it's important that, the committee chairs know that this is actually the net could be, break even or negative. So I think that's important to communicate out. The other is, Donna, you mentioned about the YMCA. We don't have a YMCA, yes, but we also have the Good News Club. And there's a history of some of the schools traditionally hosting the Good News Club, and there's also Supreme Court decisions on that. So in that sense, maybe what Matt was saying earlier, maybe we have a list. I mean, Kim, you did an elaborate, very rich data set of, the 6 districts. So maybe a list, Ramrodders, right? The Good News Club. We list them out. And so then it doesn't become arbitrary. Then we know exactly what formula it is. And then, when somebody requests, then we fit that organization to the current list of what we know.
Mm-hmm. What is the Good News Club? I don't know.
It's a Christian prayer group organization.
They have after school programs at some of the, or they did at some of the elementary schools that and I think at Oak, right?
La Rosa had it.
No, Longdon had it, yeah.
So the problem I see.
I'm not ready to vote on it because I think there's just too much I'm not sure about.
But can we maybe agree on the things that need to be kind of, massaged for a second round of discussion? Because otherwise we might just be back in the same place the next time we talk about it.
That's exactly where I'm going. The problem is this has come up a few times now, and we keep on turning it back in and asking them for, another iteration, and we're not making any progress. I just historically, we defined what the criteria was for each category: free, nominal fee, or more expensive. And then we identified as best we could the parameters of what a given organization would fit in, given the nature of their business, if it's for profit, if it's faith-based or something. I mean, those kinds of things, Little League. And I don't know, to send it back to Kim and ask them to rework it again is probably going to be pretty frustrating for them pretty soon. Plus, we also need to take action because the new year is starting up pretty soon. It looks like the pandemic's getting behind us, and we're going to have demand for these things. And if we want to be good citizens of the community, we want to make them available at a reasonable fee.
I agree with Matt. I would like to, go even further, provide Kim, more clarified details and direction. By maybe Kim, the staff can list all these organizations that we have, and then maybe the board can look at that and give you direction on each particular organization.
And one more thing I wanted to talk about too was Temple City National Little League, because I think they're a totally unusual situation where almost 60 years ago, the school district gave them permission to build a facility on one of our properties.
70.
And they haven't been charged since then. And now, you know, I just can't see all of a sudden 60 years later, we start charging them.
Since you mentioned them, can I just interject that the fee
Sure.
the bid charge is really nominal, and the only things that would really cover are the utilities and the cleaning of the restrooms, and that would be included in the fee that's proposed in the document.
But the district doesn't clean the restrooms. They clean the restrooms.
Well, that used to be the case. And in fact, when I was involved in Little League, we actually hired a cleaning service to do that. But as we are in the pandemic now, for instance, we have to provide certain level of cleaning and ensure that it's revisited every 2 hours, Kim, or something like that.
It was every hour. Less than every hour. Yeah, it was originally when they started.
You know, I conceived just like, you know, when the pandemic started, we had to make special arrangements with our staff about how things are conducted at the schools. But under normal circumstances, they would be cleaning their own restrooms. We would not be cleaning them.
If I can just clarify, let me just clarify, like with maintaining of the field and with like the cleanliness or the chemicals that go on either the field or in the restrooms, even in running through our JPA, that is something that we would have to manage and maintain. And I do understand, and I did talk to Matt at length about the quality of the manicuring of the field. I do understand that for our baseball fields, softball fields, even, you know, to some degree our football field, and definitely Little League field, there is a certain requirement that we're going to have to meet in order to prepare that field for play. But we are liable if something's placed on the field, if it's like a fertilizer, or if it's a rodent, you know, remover or a weed killer or any of those types of things. We really have to make sure that we are using the regulated chemicals and equipment that we need to make sure that we maintain it, but also maintain it to the quality that we are guaranteeing that we are maintaining it to. So with regard to like exchange of service, in the past, yes, everyone exchanged services. I'm maintaining my field and you know, we're having a reduced price or no price, and that would not be fair and equitable to everybody. You would not be affording that to everybody in terms of all of the facility use. So that is no longer like in the Civic Center policy allowed. Now you can look at the field and appropriate the correct amount for things. So for example, in their concerns, I spoke to Matt and I said, but Matt, they're being charged at the baseball rate. So they're being charged for the baseball field, not Milham Field. Milham Field never had a line item on the facility use chart before. So it was defaulted to the baseball field. So breaking that out and making that an appropriate amount is the first step. And the board definitely can look at that and really, what is the electricity of having those lights on, or the, you know, the field maintenance of things of that nature. And we do have an agreement, or did have an agreement with the city. It's active until 2024. And then that original agreement sunsets. And with that, the city was in the contractual agreement to pay for the electricity. And so there was a separate meter installed. However, we do pay for the metered usage of that, which is completely fine. I would not, you know, it's our field, it's us to maintain. So I don't think that that's necessarily inappropriate. I think it's very appropriate that we pay for the electricity for that field since it's on our property. But having a line item just for the Little League field, I think is a step in the right direction. Either the Little League is using it or someone else can now use that field. So we're opening that access equitably for their group and other groups during different times of the year.
I know it might have just been for their opening ceremonies, but our custodians were there on the field. I don't believe they're there every time there's games, because there's games continually. During the day, that field is used, or at least it was used as a playground for the upper grade students at Longden. So it's not totally blocked off. It is being used as part of our own facilities. It seemed like what I've seen in the past, the adults from National Little League go to great pains to groom that field, groom the baselines, the pitcher's mound. They take great care in keeping that, at least that part of it up. But so in my mind, I know we need to clarify some things. We want to move ahead, but I'm getting the feeling we're not ready to take a vote to move ahead on this right now until we clarify the actual groups. I hate to see us table it again, but
And I would encourage you as a board to think about not groups, because if you miss a group, if you don't include a group, you're going to have to go back and re-approve. If you approve a category or criteria that we can assert, do you fall into this group or do you not? Do you fall into this criteria for this tier or not? Then we can fairly and appropriately, equitably assign the will of the board to whether it's a free group or whether it's a tier 1 or tier 2, the direct cost or the full rental users. So that would be at least helpful for us to make sure that we are fairly and appropriately applying whatever fee or free structure.
I also noticed in I think the second category down, our nonprofits would be charged. Do they need to have the 501c3 certification from the state to qualify for that? Otherwise, they would be at the full.
So yeah, everyone who is a nonprofit would either fall into the free category and or the direct cost user category, which is the lower rental fee category. If you are a nonprofit 501(c)(3) organization directly affiliated with a school club or organization activity, then you would fall into the free category as it stands in your board policy right now. If you are in a 501(c) and you're an organization who is a stand alongside, or you're in the community and you're not, charging a fee for membership, you're not using
You froze.
Organization.
Kim, you froze. We didn't hear the last.
Sorry. So you can be a 501(c) and be a direct cause user, or you can be a 501(c) and do it for profit, even though you have a 501(c). Some organizations have both. They're for profit and they also have a 501(c) alongside. Club teams would be in that category. Yes, they have a 501(c), but they are in the business of generating funds for their business, as it were. So they would be in the last category.
Donna, you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to point out a couple things. There was a discussion we had just a few minutes ago regarding determining which groups serve our community and which groups don't. And I just wanted to point out that the city on a yearly basis has the groups submit rosters, and they check and see for residency to make sure that at least 50% or more live within the city of Temple City. And those are the groups that they allow to use their facilities for free. And we did something very similar in DeWarty also. So I just wanted to point that out. And then the other thing is, and I realized this has been dragging on. We had our first presentation on it in December 11th, 2019. And then we had one February 12th, 2020. But the memo we got, it shows examples of fee classifications that I'm just not comfortable approving something that says examples of. I want it to be more clear as to who we're allowing to use it for free and who we're charging.
Okay.
So I feel bad that we, I mean, I want to send it back, but I don't feel that that's something that I can approve. It's not specific enough.
Thank you for sharing the examples of the city and the city of Duarte and how they handle it. I do think there is a way for us to be able to if there's a certain level of enrollment of TCUSD students, then they should fall into a different category than the level 2 is my feeling. And if there's language that we could put in that indicates that stipulates that, I think I would like to see that. And I also think that when we have, let's say, for example, we've used PTA as an example of free, depending on what it is they're doing and when they're doing it, that's when it starts getting really muddy. I think it's either, we have one flat, process for those organizations. If it's free, it's free. I don't see how we're going to be doing, okay, well, for that, you got to pay this. And for this, it's free. But it just gets very, people will not feel that it's, that's consistent. There's a lack of consistency. At least that's the way it'll be viewed. So I think that also concerns me because I can see that there are events that, they're trying to raise for the students and if we're going to charge for some and some because of the day or the time or because it's not technically, in conjunction with the school administrators or meetings with the school or whatever, then it gets a little confusing. So we want it to be as straightforward as possible. And so, there's a way to make it simpler and more streamlined. If it's a PTA thing, we're not charging. If it's, and then the tier thing, like, if you can prove that you have enrollment of a certain percentage of TCUSD students, then you will fall into the free category.
What if Kumon comes in and they have 20% of our kids and 15% is the cutoff? Then we're not going to charge Kumon, and then they become our direct competitor in our programs.
But they're not for profit.
They're for profit.
Yeah, they're for profit. So that wouldn't affect, those would still be tier 3. You have to be nonprofit and you have to have a certain percentage of our students.
Yeah, the problem, I'll be very honest, I see is that we're looking for a perfect solution in an imperfect situation. And what you decide for one group may fit well, or for one activity from that group may fit well, but then the next activity changes a little bit and you've got to take that into account.
Can we develop a small committee to have a review of certain things where like a person can appeal the decision, the standard rates, and then this goes to this committee and this committee decides, maybe.
Melissa, then it becomes really political. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but what we really have a responsibility to do is provide pretty specific guidelines that can't deviate. And so sometimes it gets complicated because if you allow deviations, then if I want to, maybe I like this group a little bit better, I'm willing to deviate a little bit more. And
so what about as a solution? I don't put the examples in there and I go back to the language that's in the board policy and I give you criteria for each tier. And we start there. Before we get to, say, a fee structure, I think the bigger issue is the tiers. So if we can put these two items independently and then move forward with the fee structure and then move forward with the tiers, because I think the tiers are the bigger question. And at least if we have, say, next board meeting, an adopted fee structure, then I can move forward with at least the groups that would be in the last tier, say, and the for-profit group. And because those would be all of the summer programs, right? The groups that are going to be using the facilities in the summer those are the for-profit groups. And I think that's part of, where we want to satisfy their applications. The other two groups are the groups that we need to discuss more, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Pull them off. I do two different items, one for the fee structure and then one for the tiered group. Then we can decide how we move forward with the tiered groupings.
And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Every district does this. They all struggle with this, and you have 6 different districts that you already consulted with, Kim, and just maybe sample that and then bring it back to the board, and we could cherry pick the ones that works for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel good that we at least are like, if we're going to take it away without voting to approve it, there's some specific direction on what we collectively are looking for in order to be able to approve it. So at least I feel good about that. But I do see the urgency of needing to make a decision about this. I get it.
Yeah. Have we really given you the direction you need, Kim?
Yeah, I think I have.
You cut out, I'm sorry. You're on mute.
Yes, no, I'm good.
Okay, well, I guess I will withdraw my motion regretfully.
I'll withdraw the second.
Okay, so we are gonna, well, I don't have the terminology. It's not table, I know that, but we want to go ahead and address this issue at the future meeting, and ideally the next meeting, which would be May 18th. Right? No, never mind.
That's next week.
Sorry. 2 weeks from today.
You got to get it done next week.
2 weeks from today. Okay. And I'm sorry, but I got a pile of papers here. I have to figure out where I am in my agenda. That was 24, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to move on to item 25 under business services. It calls for a motion to approve the San Gabriel Valley Food Services Cooperation Purchasing Group Annual Membership Agreement for 2021 and 2022. And I guess I'll ask for a motion in a second, and then we'll have Mercedes tell us a little bit more about this. So may I have see, Melissa has a motion and Mary has a second. And with that, Mercedes, what can you tell us about this?
So food services typically enters into an agreement for 2 different co-ops. The one before you, the 2 different ones are San Gabriel Valley Co-op and then the USDA. The one before you is for the San Gabriel Valley Co-op. And so what the co-op allows is by joining forces with a variety of various districts, which you can see in the agenda report, it does allow for a little bit more competitive pricing because we're now a larger group. So that's what we're bringing before you today. Just to join the co-op or to become part of the co-op, there is no fee involved in that. We pay once we actually get the contracts for, would it be dairy, bread, paper, produce, things like that.
Okay. Any comments or questions from Mercedes? It seems pretty straightforward. Okay, I will go ahead and call for the vote. Student Board Member Lee?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Member Espinosa?
Yes.
Member Georgino?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
And Member Sneed?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to item 26, it calls for a motion to approve budget adjustments for 2020-2021 fiscal year budget. We have a motion and a second, and then we'll go with questions. Any? Motion from Member Georgino, second from Member Espinosa. Any comments or questions for Dr. Gomez? No, then I will go ahead and call for the vote. Student Member Lee?
Yes.
Member Espinosa?
Yes.
Member Georgino?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Sneed?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well, so the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item 27, it calls for a motion to approve the 2020-2021 authorization to make year-end budgetary appropriation transfers to the county superintendent of schools. May I have a motion and a second to approve this, please?
I'll make the motion.
Dr. Lynn, motion by member Lynn, and a second from member Georgino. And so I will go ahead and call for the vote. Member Sneed?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, student. Stop. The comments or questions from Mercedes first. Moving along too fast. Okay, not seeing any, then I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. Student Board Member Lee.
Yes.
Member Georgino.
Yes.
Member Smith. That's me, yes. Member Espinosa.
Yes.
Member Sneed.
Yes.
And Member Lynn.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the area of educational services, item 28 calls for a motion to approve the expanded learning opportunities grant. And I think we're going to have a presentation from Sandy Dusong on all these questions, but let me call for the motion first. We have a motion to approve first and a second.
I'll make the motion.
Motion from Dr. Lynn and a second from, I can only see part of you. I see
Melissa.
Melissa, very good, thank you. So we have a motion, a second from member Espinosa. So Sandy, it's all up to you now.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Fricker. Tonight, I have the privilege of presenting to you the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant Plan, also known as the ELO Plan. So what is it? The Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant, or the ELO Plan, is a part of the Assembly Bill 86 COVID-19 relief package. Although no application process is required to receive the ELO grant, it needs to be shared in public and voted by you, the governing board. The ELO plan explains how the district will use the funds that we receive to support our students in learning recovery in 7 specific supplemental instructional and support strategies. Here they are, the 7. Let me highlight a few of them for you. Number 2, accelerating programs to close learning gaps through implementation, expansion, or enhancement of learning supports, which will include things like tutoring, learning recovery programs and materials, professional development for teachers and staff. And number 3, integrating student support to address other barriers to learning, as well as number 7, training for school staff on strategies, including trauma-informed practice. Being that I am the equity program specialist for equity and outreach, looking at different barriers from preventing our students from learning is very important for me as well as for the district. So the ELO funds can be used to address any barriers to student learning, to engage students and families in addressing students' social emotional health needs and academic needs, which may include training for teachers and staff and collaboration times for counselors and teachers during the summer so that they can have all the strategies that they need for social emotional health for our children as they return. So let's take a look at the plan itself. Stakeholders were a big part of developing this ELO plan. Multiple meetings took place, starting with our leader, superintendent's task force, got together to really dive deep in how we can mitigate our learning loss for our students. Principals meetings, school site council meetings, coffee with the principals, staff meetings, and the incredible team at our district, superintendent and the executive cabinet, held a town hall meeting for all those interested in learning, including parents and staff. And it was very well attended. In fact, towards the end, we had about 100 questions and they were all answered to our parents' satisfaction. We also included feedback from our parents through the parent survey, as well as gotten the voice from our teachers through staff interest survey. How were our children identified for these special programs? We used a lot of data, but it wasn't exhaustive. We use academic data that we had about our children, as well as our teachers' recommendations, student engagement data, as well as parent feedback to identify students for specific programs we will be offering during the summer. What are the supplemental instructional instruction as well as the support? Let's take a look at supplemental instruction first. So during the summertime, each school at our district will provide summer school across the multi-grade levels. For those students transitioning to a new school site, our kinder and first, and those entering into our middle school, and those students entering into high school, the district will offer a program called the Summer Transitional Educational Program, or the STEPS program, specifically designed for those students to acclimate to their new school campus and all that it offers. Credit recovery class will be also available during the summer, as well as tutoring and intervention. How about our supplemental support category? Collaboration time can be something that will be funded by the ELO plan, and it'll be available for teachers and counselors during the summertime to plan for and strategically learn ways to support social emotional health of our students. Professional development for all staff on restorative justice and trauma-informed teaching and learning, as well as training for our classroom assistants, as well as noon duties, so that it's a completely, everybody on campus will be educated on how to do restorative justice and be informed of trauma-informed teaching and learning to support our children. As well as a professional development, collaboration time for building strong infrastructure using the MTSS multi-tier system of support will be something that we will add to this plan, as well as using effective data like iReady data to build a strong community within our school to provide support for all of our students. So let's take a look at how our families will be communicated with all of these opportunities for them. As you can see, the district has a very well-developed district website that it'll be published through that way, as well as the superintendent's bi-weekly newsletter. School sites will use Parent Square, Principal's newsletter, Coffee with the Principal, phone calls, and in person to make sure all our parents are aware and that all our families are aware of these great opportunities. Let's take a look at the funding. It is estimated that Temple City Unified District will receive $3,675,988. 85% of this figure has to be used for in-person instruction and support. 10% of this amount or this fund is to help rehired laid off paraprofessional. However, TCUSD did not lay off any paraprofessionals. So these funds can be used to expand paraprofessional services, including additional hours for classified staff to support our students. This ELO funds must be expended by August of 2022. That's it. Any questions?
Sandy, can I see the previous slide one more time?
Oh, so sorry about that. Let me go ahead and put that back up.
It's great that we're getting this money for our kiddos.
Absolutely.
Especially with COVID learning loss happening. Okay, great, thanks. Thank you, got it.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Smith, I think you need to unmute.
Thank you. Are there any further comments or questions? I had one myself. I'm trying to figure it out. I had one, but I don't recall what it is. All right, anybody other comments or questions? No, all right. Then I'm gonna go ahead and call for the vote. I got my papers, I'm sorry, all over the place right now. And here it is, item 28. So student member Lee,
Yes.
okay. I am a yes. Member Sneed,
Yes.
member Lynn,
Yes.
member Georgino,
Yes.
and member Espinoza.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We are on to item number 29, which calls for a motion to approve the TCEA Summer School Memorandum of Understanding. They have a motion and a second to approve this, please. A member from member Espinoza, second from member Lynn. Are there comments or questions on this item for Hannah? Not seeing any. I will go ahead and call for the vote. Student member Lee,
Yes.
member Sneed,
Yes.
member Lynn,
Yes.
member Espinoza,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, so that carries 5-0. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Yes. You didn't ask me, Matt, but I'm a yes.
I checked you off. Sorry. Okay, member Georgina is also a yes. That carries 5-0. With that, we're moving on to the consent agenda, which calls for a motion to approve routine items by one motion and one vote, unless a member of the board or audience requests that any item be reviewed and voted upon separately. So I have a motion to approve in a second, please. See a motion from member Georgino and a second from member Lynn. Are there any comments or questions about any of the items in the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will go ahead and call for the vote. Whoops. Down at the bottom. Okay. Member Espinoza,
Yes.
member Georgino,
Yes.
member Lynn,
Yes.
member Sneed,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So the motion carries 5-0. Oh, did I miss
You forgot
board
Nicole.
member Lee? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to board requests or comments. Did anybody want to make a request or a comment tonight? Member Georgino?
Just one comment. The girls soccer team lost tonight, so their season is over, but congratulations to them for doing so well.
Yes. Yeah, give them a round of applause. Are there any other comments or no? Okay. Future agenda items, anybody have? We have listed visual and performing arts and governance handbook and protocols, which is being addressed. And we got, as somebody mentioned earlier, the self-evaluation out last week, and that closes, I think, Friday. So you need to get in there if you haven't already and do the self-evaluation by Friday.
Do we have to add the whole fee structure thing back on for future, or are we just going to put it on the next one?
We're just gonna put it on the next one. Kim, is that what you're saying? You're shake your head, yes or no?
I'll just put it on.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I understood. Okay.
Okay, cool.
All right. Any additional comments from the public with regard to agendized or non-agendized items? Seeing none, I will go ahead and call for a motion to adjourn. May I have a motion in a second, please? Motion from member Lynn, second from member Sneed, and it's a roll call vote. Student member Lee,
Yes.
member Lynn,
Yes.
member Sneed,
Yes.
member Espinoza,
Yes.
member Georgino,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. So the vote is approved 5-0, and we are adjourned for the night. Thank you very much.
Night.
Thank you. Good